Before this message ends, something is going to shift inside your spirit because God did not bring you here by accident, and if you are watching this right now, it is because heaven wanted you to hear this exact reminder today that the door in front of you is not closing, it is opening, and no person, no disappointment, no rejection, no delay, no betrayal, and no fear has the authority to shut what God Himself is opening in your life. And I know there were nights when you questioned everything, and mornings when you woke up tired before the day even began, and moments when you wondered why opportunities disappeared just when you needed them most, and maybe you even asked God why the path became harder when you were trying to stay faithful. But what you could not see in those silent seasons is that God was protecting you from doors that looked right but would have led you somewhere wrong, and while you thought you were being delayed, heaven was actually positioning you, and while you thought something was ending, God was quietly preparing something that could not be taken away from you, because when God opens a door, it does not depend on the approval of people, it does not depend on timing that makes sense to everyone else, it does not depend on the resources you think you are missing, and it certainly does not depend on the opinions of those who doubted you, because the door God opens is built by His promise, sustained by His power, and protected by His purpose. And there is someone listening to this right now who has been feeling like they missed their chance, like life passed them by, like the moment already came and went. But God is saying your moment was never lost, it was being reserved, and what looks late to you is still perfectly on time in heaven. And the same God who closed doors that confused you is the same God now opening doors that will restore you. And you may not understand why certain relationships ended, why certain plans collapsed, why certain people walked away without explanation, but one day you will realize that every closed door was actually mercy in disguise, because if those doors had stayed open, they would have kept you from the place God is bringing you now. And the truth is, sometimes God closes a door not because you were rejected, but because you were chosen for something greater and deeper and stronger than what you were asking for. And there are blessings that only arrive after certain exits happen in your life, and there are opportunities that only appear once certain distractions disappear, and there are miracles that only become visible after your faith survives a season of silence. And if you feel like everything around you has been shifting lately, like something is changing even though you cannot explain it, then pay attention, because that is often how divine doors begin to open. First there is discomfort, then there is uncertainty, then there is movement, and suddenly there is breakthrough. And when that breakthrough arrives, it will not look like coincidence, it will look like confirmation, because God does not open doors halfway, He opens them completely. And the door He is opening for you will not require you to pretend to be someone else, it will not require you to shrink your faith, it will not require you to sacrifice your peace, because the right door always aligns with God's voice, and the right door always leads you closer to your purpose, and the right door always confirms what God already whispered in your heart before anyone else believed it. And I know there were moments when you thought maybe you were forgotten, maybe your prayers were too small, maybe your faith was too weak, maybe your mistakes were too big. But listen carefully, God does not open doors because you are perfect, He opens doors because He is faithful, and His faithfulness is not limited by your past, and His promise is not cancelled by your fear, and His timing is not controlled by your doubts. And right now something powerful is happening behind the scenes that you cannot see. Yet conversations are being prepared, opportunities are being aligned, connections are being arranged, and doors are being unlocked in places you never expected, because when God decides it is your season, nothing can stop what He starts, and nothing can silence what He speaks, and nothing can block what He blesses. And you are closer than you think to the moment when everything begins to make sense, and the door God is opening for you will not just change your situation, it will change your confidence. It will change your perspective, it will change your story, and one day you will look back at this exact season and realize that the struggle you thought was punishment was actually preparation, and the waiting you thought was rejection was actually protection, and the silence you thought was absence was actually God working quietly in ways your eyes could not yet see. And the truth is, God sometimes waits until the last possible moment, not because He wants you to suffer, but because He wants you to see clearly that the breakthrough came from Him and not from coincidence and not from luck and not from human approval. And when that door finally opens, you will know without doubt that it was God who made the way where there was no way. And maybe today you are standing in front of uncertainty, maybe today you are surrounded by questions, maybe today you are carrying disappointment you never expected to carry, but hear this clearly: your story is not ending here, your opportunity is not over, your purpose is not cancelled, your future is not blocked, and the door that God is opening in front of you cannot be closed by fear, cannot be closed by failure, cannot be closed by delay, cannot be closed by rejection, and cannot be closed by anything that tried to convince you to give up, because what God has written over your life cannot be erased by what happened around your life, and what God has promised about your future cannot be cancelled by what happened in your past. And if you keep walking forward even when you cannot see the full path, if you keep trusting even when the answer feels delayed, if you keep believing even when the evidence is not visible yet, you are going to step into a moment that changes everything. And when that moment arrives, you will understand why certain doors never opened before, because they were never meant to open, and you will understand why certain people never stayed, because they were never meant to stay in. You will understand why certain seasons lasted longer than you expected, because they were building strength inside you that you did not know you needed. And the door God is opening now is not temporary, it is not fragile, it is not uncertain, it is permanent, purposeful, and protected, and nobody can close what God Himself has decided to open in your life. And this is your reminder today that heaven is still working on your behalf, that your prayers are still being heard, that your faith is still being honored, and that the door in front of you is already beginning to move even if you cannot see it yet. So do not lose hope now, do not stop believing now, do not turn back now, because you are standing closer than ever before to the moment God has been preparing for you all along. And the testimony that is coming from your life will prove to everyone around you that when God opens a door, no one can close it, and when He blesses a life, no one can block it, and when He chooses a person, no one can replace them. And that person right now is you. Before you go any further today, you need to understand something powerful that heaven is whispering over your life right now, because the door God is opening for you is not a small opportunity, and it is not a temporary change, and it is not something that people can block with their opinions or their rejection or their silence. This is a divine shift that has your name written on it long before the struggle ever started, and long before the tears ever fell, and long before the nights you stayed awake wondering if anything would ever change, because while you thought you were waiting, God was arranging; while you thought you were losing, God was positioning; and while you thought the silence meant delay, heaven was preparing something bigger than what your eyes could see and bigger than what your mind could imagine. And right now, the reason you feel something shifting inside your spirit is because the season you cried through is turning into the season you will walk through with confidence and authority and unexpected favor that no one around you will be able to explain, but everyone will be able to witness. There were moments when doors closed in front of you so suddenly that you didn't even get the chance to understand why they shut, and you questioned yourself, and you questioned your direction, and sometimes you even questioned your worth. But what you did not realize in those painful moments is that some doors close not to punish you but to protect you, and some opportunities disappear not because you failed but because they were too small for the calling that God placed on your life. And now, as you stand at the edge of a new chapter, you are beginning to see that what looked like rejection was actually redirection, and what looked like delay was actually divine timing, aligning things in ways that your human understanding could never control. God never wastes your pain, and He never ignores your prayers, even when the answers take longer than you expected, and even when the road becomes heavier than you planned to walk. Because every tear you cried in secret was recorded, and every silent prayer you whispered in weakness was heard, and every moment you kept believing when it would have been easier to quit was building a testimony that is now preparing to open a door that no enemy can close, and no fear can stop, and no doubt can stand against. And this is why the battle felt stronger lately, because whenever a breakthrough is close, the resistance becomes louder. But resistance is not a sign that God left you. Resistance is a sign that something powerful is about to change. Right now something is shifting behind the scenes in ways you cannot measure yet, but soon you will recognize the fingerprints of God all over the opportunities that begin appearing in your path, and the connections that begin forming in unexpected ways, and the clarity that begins replacing confusion in your heart. Because when God opens a door, He does not need permission from people, and He does not wait for approval from circumstances, and He does not depend on timing that humans understand. He moves with authority and purpose and precision, and when that door opens, it will feel different from every other opportunity before it, because this time there will be peace instead of pressure, and confidence instead of confusion, and strength instead of fear. Some people around you may not understand what God is doing in your life right now, and that is okay, because not everyone is meant to see what God showed you in prayer, and not everyone is meant to understand the assignment placed on your spirit. And sometimes the reason the door must be opened by God alone is because if people had the power to open it, they would also have the power to close it again. But when heaven opens something for you, it comes with protection and purpose and permanence that cannot be taken away by opinions or jealousy or misunderstanding. You are closer than you think to the moment where everything begins making sense, and the confusion you carried starts turning into clarity, and the waiting season starts turning into a walking season, and the prayers you repeated so many times start turning into visible answers that remind you God was listening the entire time, even when nothing around you seemed to move. And this is why you cannot stop now, and this is why you cannot lose faith now, because the door that is opening in front of you is not ordinary, and it is not random, and it is not temporary. It is connected to the next level of your purpose, and the next level of your calling, and the next level of your testimony that will encourage someone else who almost gave up just like you almost did. The enemy tried to convince you that your best days were behind you, but God is reminding you right now that your best chapter has not even started yet, and the reason the attack felt personal is because your assignment is powerful, and the reason the waiting felt long is because what is coming is lasting, and the reason the process felt confusing is because what God is preparing cannot be understood before its time arrives. But now the season is changing, and now the atmosphere around your life is shifting, and now the door that once looked impossible is beginning to open slowly and surely in front of you. So keep trusting even when you cannot see everything clearly yet, and keep believing even when the timeline does not make sense yet, and keep walking even when the road still feels uncertain for a moment longer, because what God started in your life He will finish, and what He promised over your future He will fulfill, and what He is opening for you right now no person and no situation and no obstacle will ever be able to close again. And very soon you will look back at this season and realize that this was the exact moment everything began changing in your favor. There are moments in your life when heaven seems silent and your prayers feel like they are falling back to the ground before they even reach the ceiling, and in those moments the enemy whispers that nothing is changing, nothing is moving, nothing is coming, but what he never tells you is that God does his deepest work in the seasons you understand the least, because while you are waiting, God is aligning people you have not met yet, opening doors you cannot see yet, protecting you from dangers you never even knew existed, and preparing blessings that are too heavy to arrive before your spirit becomes strong enough to carry them. And that is why this season you are in right now is not punishment, it is preparation, it is not delay, it is divine timing, it is not rejection, it is redirection, because God never wastes your pain and he never ignores your tears, every silent cry you whispered at night when nobody saw you, every moment you stayed strong when you wanted to quit, every time you chose faith when fear was louder. Heaven recorded it all and heaven is responding even now. Folded hand sparkles, and maybe today you are wondering why certain doors closed so suddenly, or why certain people walked away without explanation, or why plans you prayed for never happened the way you expected. But what if those closed doors were actually God protecting your destiny? What if those people leaving were making space for the right people to enter your life? What if those broken plans were clearing the path for something far greater than what you imagined? Because sometimes God will remove what you are holding on to simply because your hands are too full to receive what he is about to place inside them. And the truth is, your story is not over yet, your breakthrough is not cancelled. Your miracle is not delayed forever. It is simply being positioned at the perfect moment where it will bless not only you but everyone connected to your purpose. Glowing star. And right now, even if your situation looks confusing, you must remember that God specializes in impossible situations. He brings rivers into deserts. He creates doors inside walls. He speaks light into darkness. And he turns storms into testimonies, so the very thing that tried to break you will soon become the reason someone else believes again. The very season that made you cry will soon become the season that makes you stronger than you ever thought possible. Because when God is writing your story, he never ends a chapter in defeat, he always ends it in victory, and that means what you are facing today is not your ending. It is only a turning point in the middle of a miracle that is still unfolding right now, even if you cannot see it yet, even if you cannot feel it yet, even if nobody around you understands it yet, because faith is not believing after you see the answer. Faith is believing while the answer is still on its way. Door fire. And God is asking you in this moment to keep trusting him a little longer, to keep praying a little stronger, to keep walking a little farther, because what he has prepared for you is already moving closer than you think, and the door he is opening for you is a door no fear, no doubt, no delay, and no enemy will ever be able to close. There is something powerful happening in your life right now that you cannot fully see yet. Because when God begins to shift your story, he rarely announces it with comfort first, he prepares it through pressure, and the reason the season you are walking through feels heavier than anything you expected is not because you are forgotten, but because heaven is rearranging things behind the scenes in ways your eyes cannot measure and your mind cannot predict. And what feels like delay is actually divine positioning, because God is not just trying to bless you quickly, he is trying to bless you correctly, and the doors that closed recently were not punishments but protection, the silence you experienced was not rejection but preparation, the waiting you endured was not wasted time but sacred training. Because when God is about to release something unstoppable into your life, He first strengthens the version of you that will carry it without losing it, and that is why you survived things that should have broken you. That is why you kept waking up even when your heart was tired. That is why your faith stayed alive even when your prayers felt unanswered, because heaven never stopped working on your behalf even for a second. And right now, while you are wondering when things will finally change, there is a shift already forming in places you cannot see yet. People you have never met are being aligned with your destiny. Opportunities you did not apply for are moving closer to your path, and solutions you thought were impossible are already being prepared for the exact moment you are ready to receive them. Because God does not rescue you randomly, He rescues you precisely. And what makes this season different from the ones before is that this time you are not just being delivered from something, you are being delivered into something greater than you imagined, something stronger than your past pain, something bigger than your current struggle, something that will make you look back one day and realize that every tear you cried was watering the ground where your testimony was growing. And the enemy thought the pressure would silence your faith, but instead it strengthened your spirit. The enemy thought the delay would weaken your hope, but instead it deepened your trust. The enemy thought the storm would stop your progress, but instead it redirected your path exactly where God wanted you to be all along. And if you could see what heaven is preparing for you right now, you would not question this season anymore. You would stand taller inside it, breathe deeper through it, and walk forward with confidence, knowing that nothing you survived was meaningless and nothing you are facing today is permanent, because the same God who carried you through yesterday is already standing inside your tomorrow, preparing the moment when everything finally begins to make sense and the breakthrough you prayed for quietly becomes the testimony everyone around you cannot ignore anymore. There is a reason God did not allow you to give up when everything inside you wanted to walk away, because the truth is you were never meant to end your story in the middle of your struggle. You were always meant to walk all the way into the promise that God has been quietly preparing for you long before this season of confusion ever began. And even though there were nights when your prayers felt like they were disappearing into silence and days when your strength felt smaller than your problems, heaven never stopped moving on your behalf even for a single moment, because God's timing does not depend on what you see happening around you. It depends on what He is arranging beyond what your eyes can reach. And that is why the delays you experienced were not denials but divine alignment. Because if certain things had worked out earlier, they would have pulled you into places that looked right but were never truly meant for your destiny. And sometimes God protects you by closing doors you begged Him to open, and sometimes He strengthens you by allowing battles you never expected to fight. Because the version of you that is walking into your next season must be stronger than the version of you that entered the last one. And right now, even if it feels like progress is slow and answers are taking longer than you hoped, something powerful is still unfolding behind the scenes. Something steady is still moving in your favor. Something intentional is still shaping your future, step by step, in ways that cannot be stopped by people's opinions, unexpected obstacles, or temporary disappointments, because what God is preparing for you is not fragile and it is not temporary. It is built with purpose and protected with intention, and there are moments coming into your life soon when the confusion you once carried will suddenly be replaced with clarity. The uncertainty that once followed you will be replaced with direction, and the heaviness you once felt will be replaced with peace that you cannot explain but will recognize instantly as God's presence leading you forward. and when that moment arrives you will realize that every delay you questioned was actually positioning you exactly where you needed to stand to receive what heaven had already decided was yours long before you ever asked for it, because the breakthrough that is coming toward your life is not random and it is not accidental. It is the result of every silent prayer you whispered, every tear you tried to hide, every moment you kept believing even when believing felt difficult, and the same God who carried you through seasons you thought would never end is now guiding you toward a chapter that will restore your strength, renew your hope, and remind you that nothing you trusted Him with was ever wasted and nothing you placed in His hands was ever forgotten. Listen carefully. Because what you are walking through right now is not random, it is not meaningless, and it is not wasted time. It is a hidden preparation season where heaven is shaping your strength, sharpening your faith, and positioning your life for something you cannot yet see but will soon recognize as the very answer you once cried for in your darkest nights. There were moments when you asked God why things slowed down instead of speeding up, why doors closed when you were ready to walk through them, why people walked away when you needed them the most, and why the silence felt heavier than the struggle itself. But what you did not realize then is that God was protecting you from stepping into something before you were ready to carry the weight of what He promised you. Because some blessings are not delayed as punishment, they are delayed as protection. There are things God refused to give you earlier not because He said no, but because He loves you too much to let you receive them before your heart, your mindset, and your spiritual strength were ready to sustain them. And right now, even though you cannot see it clearly yet, something is shifting in your favor. You may still feel tired. You may still feel uncertain. You may still be wondering how everything is going to come together. But heaven is already moving pieces behind the scenes in ways you cannot predict. There is a reason your spirit has not given up. There is a reason you are still holding on even after everything tried to make you quit. There is a reason you keep feeling that quiet voice inside telling you to stay patient just a little longer. That voice is not your imagination. That voice is direction. Because God never keeps someone waiting without working on something. While you thought nothing was happening, something powerful was being arranged for you. While you thought you were losing time, God was aligning timing. While you thought you were being overlooked, God was positioning you. And what is coming next in your life will make sense of everything that once confused you. One day you will look back at this exact season and realize that what felt like delay was actually divine alignment. You will understand why certain people could not stay. You will understand why certain plans did not succeed. You will understand why certain opportunities disappeared. Because God was not removing blessings from your life, He was removing distractions from your destiny. There are moments when heaven clears the path before opening the door. And that clearing process sometimes feels uncomfortable. Sometimes it feels lonely. Sometimes it feels slow. But it is always intentional. God does not waste seasons. Even the painful ones are building something inside you. Even the silent ones are strengthening something within you. Even the confusing ones are preparing clarity for what is ahead. You are closer than you think. Closer to the answer. Closer to the breakthrough. Closer to the opportunity. closer to the restoration. Closer to the moment where everything begins to shift in ways you did not expect but secretly hoped for. Because when God prepares a new chapter, He first strengthens the person who will walk into it. That is what He has been doing with you. He has been strengthening your patience when you wanted quick answers. He has been strengthening your faith when you wanted visible proof. He has been strengthening your courage when you felt uncertain about tomorrow. And now something inside you is different. You are not the same person you were at the beginning of this journey. You are stronger. You are wiser. You are deeper in faith. You trust differently now. You see differently now. You pray differently now. And that change inside you is the evidence that God is preparing something outside you. Because transformation always comes before transition. God prepares the heart before He releases the blessing. He prepares the spirit before He opens the door. He prepares the person before He reveals the promise. So if this season felt longer than expected, it is because what is coming next is bigger than expected. If this season felt heavier than usual, it is because what you are about to carry requires greater strength than before. If this season felt confusing at times, it is because God was teaching you to trust His voice more than your understanding. And that kind of trust changes everything. It changes how you respond to setbacks. It changes how you respond to delays. It changes how you respond to uncertainty. Because once you understand that God is working even when you cannot see movement, fear begins to lose its power over your mind. Doubt begins to lose its control over your decisions. And hope begins to grow again inside your heart. Right now, even if nothing around you looks different yet, something inside you is being prepared for a moment that is closer than you realize. God is not finished with your story. He is not finished with your purpose. He is not finished with your breakthrough. And the chapter you are stepping toward will not look like the chapter you just walked through. It will carry answers where there were questions. Peace where there was pressure. Clarity where there was confusion. And strength where there was once fear. So stay steady. Stay faithful. Stay expectant. Because the same God who carried you through what you thought you could not survive is now leading you into something you once thought you could not reach, and when that moment arrives, you will understand that every step, every delay, every closed door, and every silent night was guiding you exactly where you needed to be. There is something powerful happening in your life right now that you cannot fully see yet, because God often begins His greatest work in places that feel quiet, hidden, and unnoticed, and while you may think this season is slow or uncertain, heaven is actually preparing a moment that will change the direction of your story in a way you never expected but always hoped for deep inside your heart. You did not come this far by accident. You did not survive everything you survived just to stop here. You did not keep believing through disappointment just to remain where you started. God has been guiding you even in moments when you thought you were walking alone, even in nights when your prayers felt unanswered, and even in situations where nothing made sense at the time but later revealed that He was protecting you from something you could not yet understand. Sometimes God allows seasons that feel uncomfortable because comfort does not create growth, and sometimes He allows delays because immediate answers would not prepare you for the responsibility attached to the blessing that is coming into your life. There are doors that only open when your spirit becomes strong enough to walk through them without fear. There are opportunities that only appear when your faith becomes steady enough to hold them without doubt. There are relationships that only enter your life when your heart becomes healed enough to receive them without repeating old patterns. And this season you are walking through right now is doing exactly that kind of preparation inside you. Even if you cannot see progress on the outside yet, there is deep progress happening within you. Your patience is becoming stronger. Your faith is becoming deeper. Your understanding is becoming clearer. Your trust in God is becoming more real than it has ever been before. And that kind of transformation never happens without purpose. God never builds strength inside someone unless He plans to use that strength for something meaningful ahead. He never increases your endurance unless you are about to step into something that requires it. He never stretches your faith unless a bigger promise is already being prepared in your future. So if this season tested you more than expected, it is because what is coming next will bless you more than expected. If this season required more patience than usual, it is because what is coming next will arrive with perfect timing instead of rushed timing. If this season forced you to depend on God more than people, it is because the next chapter of your life will require a deeper connection with Him than ever before. And something important is happening right now that you need to recognize. You are not the same person who first entered this season. Your mindset has changed. Your priorities have changed. Your strength has changed. Your faith has changed. You are becoming the version of yourself that can carry what God is about to place into your hands. Because blessings are not only about receiving something new. They are about becoming someone new. God prepares the person before He releases the promise. He strengthens the foundation before He builds the structure. He clears confusion before He reveals direction. And that is exactly what He has been doing in your life step by step, moment by moment, even when you did not notice it happening. There were moments when you thought things were falling apart, but they were actually falling into place. There were moments when you thought you were losing opportunities, but God was protecting your future from the wrong timing. There were moments when you thought you were being delayed, but heaven was aligning something better than what you originally asked for. And soon you will begin to see signs that confirm this truth. Opportunities will begin to appear in unexpected ways. Clarity will begin to replace confusion. Peace will begin to replace pressure. Direction will begin to replace uncertainty. Because when God begins to move openly after working silently, everything starts changing faster than you imagined possible. The same situation that once looked impossible begins to look manageable. The same path that once looked closed begins to open again. The same prayer that once felt unanswered begins to show signs of response. And when that moment arrives, you will realize that God never stopped working for you, not even once. He was working in places you could not see. He was arranging connections you did not know about. He was protecting outcomes you did not understand. He was strengthening your spirit for a future that required more courage than your past ever demanded. So do not lose confidence now. Do not step back now. Do not allow temporary uncertainty to make you forget the permanent purpose that God has placed over your life. Because something significant is closer than it feels right now. A door is closer than it looks right now. An answer is closer than it seems right now. And a breakthrough is closer than your doubts are telling you right now. Stay faithful a little longer. Stay patient a little longer. Stay hopeful a little longer. Because the same God who brought you through the last chapter of your life is already preparing the next chapter for you, and when it begins to unfold you will clearly see that every moment of waiting, every moment of trusting, and every moment of believing when it was difficult was leading you exactly where you were meant to be. There is a reason you are still standing after everything that tried to break your confidence, everything that tried to weaken your faith, and everything that tried to convince you that your story would not move forward the way you once believed it would, because when God places purpose over a life He does not allow pressure to destroy that purpose. He uses pressure to strengthen the person who is carrying it so that when the right moment arrives they are no longer fragile enough to doubt what He is about to do. You may not fully understand why this season required so much patience from you, why certain answers did not arrive when you expected them, why certain doors remained closed longer than you were comfortable waiting, but there is something powerful happening underneath the surface of your life right now that is quietly preparing a moment that will restore your confidence in ways you did not even realize you needed. Sometimes God allows a season where nothing seems to change on the outside because He is changing everything on the inside first. He changes how you see yourself. He changes how you see your future. He changes how you see the obstacles that once felt impossible. He changes how you respond to fear. He changes how you respond to uncertainty. And when that internal change is complete, external change begins to appear faster than expected. Right now, even if your surroundings still look the same, your spirit is not the same anymore. You have survived things that once looked too heavy to carry. You have walked through moments that once felt too confusing to understand. You have continued believing even when evidence was not visible. That kind of perseverance does not happen by accident. It happens because God is building a foundation inside you that can support the future He already planned for you before this season even began. There are answers already moving toward your life. There are opportunities already being arranged in your favor. There are connections already being aligned at the right time. And even though you cannot see those movements yet, they are closer than your doubts are telling you. God does not prepare a person this carefully unless He is preparing something meaningful for that person to step into. Every lesson you learned recently has a purpose. Every delay you experienced recently has a reason. Every silent moment you endured recently has been shaping your strength in ways that will soon make sense. Because sometimes the silence of God is not the absence of His voice. It is the evidence of His work happening in places you cannot yet see. There were moments when you thought you were waiting alone, but heaven was already arranging details for you behind the scenes. There were moments when you thought nothing was moving, but timing was being aligned in ways that required patience instead of speed. There were moments when you thought your progress had stopped, but your preparation had actually increased. And preparation always comes before promotion. God strengthens the heart before He expands the path. He builds endurance before He releases opportunity. He increases faith before He reveals the promise. That is why this season felt different from previous seasons. This was not just another chapter of waiting. This was a chapter of becoming. Becoming stronger than before. Becoming wiser than before. Becoming more confident in God's direction than before. Becoming more aware of your purpose than before. And that transformation inside you is the signal that something new is about to begin around you. Soon you will start noticing changes that confirm what God has been preparing. Clarity will begin to replace confusion. Momentum will begin to replace delay. Peace will begin to replace pressure. Direction will begin to replace uncertainty. Because when heaven decides it is time for movement, nothing can hold back what God has already planned for your life. No delay can stop it. No obstacle can cancel it. No doubt can erase it. And the strength you gain during this season will become the very reason you are able to recognize the opportunity when it finally arrives. So do not allow temporary silence to convince you that permanent answers are not coming. Do not allow temporary delay to convince you that progress has stopped. Do not allow temporary confusion to convince you that direction has disappeared. Because something is already being prepared that will make this season meaningful in ways you could not fully understand while you were walking through it. God is not finished with your story. He is not finished with your purpose. He is not finished with your breakthrough. And the next step He is leading you toward will not only change your circumstances, it will change how you see yourself, how you see your future, and how you see the journey that brought you to this exact moment. Because one day very soon you will realize that everything you endured was not working against you but was quietly working together to position you exactly where you needed to be for the blessing that was already on its way to you.